Welcome back to the Campfire Series podcast. The Campfire Series podcast encourages everybody this holiday season to shop big, but also shop small. Help out those local small businesses near you. I am your host, Logan Soforenko, and we have an awesome episode this week directly from the Mean Girls Broadway National Tour. Damien himself, please welcome Eric Huffman.
Sweet. Well, name is Eric Huffman. I'm from Kansas City. I grew up here doing community theater, went to college at the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, long name. Loved my time there, did some regional stuff. And out of college, I got the Book of Mormon tour. And out of Book of Mormon tour, I got the Mean Girls tour. So currently Damien on the Mean Girls tour. And that's my life in a nutshell.
If you can even remember how casting went, I'm sure obviously you did because it's such a big moment in your life, but walk me through the casting process of Book of Mormon. Right out of college, it seems pretty big.
I got so lucky that a show was looking for young white guys right out of college, right when I graduated college, and they were casting two whole companies. We had the first national tour and we were the Chicago production. So there was like 20 roles up for grabs, and they came to all of our college showcases and stuff. I actually auditioned first on my Christmas break my senior year and ended up going back in. I had something like 12 callbacks by the end of the whole process because they were trying to fit the whole puzzle together. But by the end of it, I basically learned half of the show, and I'd been in for the creative team so many times. It was like we were on a first name basis. So when I finally got the phone call, of course, it was wonderful, but I was in FedEx sending a package home, got the phone call, and my initial thought was, oh, thank God, they finally made up their minds. Like one way or the other, this adventure is over.
I feel like that's just a variable no one really pays attention to, like if you're not in the theater world, like just the waiting. And because, there's other stories where, it could be months and it could be, you never know when you're going to get that call. But I wanted to ask this to somebody on Broadway for a long time. Just tell me how hard it is, because everyone knows how hard it is, obviously, but how hard is it? We are up against so many other people in the room. Obviously, it gets narrowed down as, you get further and further into the audition process. But tell me exactly just how hard it is.
It can honestly be emotionally grating as well as physically grating, just going through all that process. Because the closer you get to a job like that, the more you want it. Like going to an open call randomly for a random show, I think that kind of stuff's fun. That's like where I see my friends. I joke sometimes that dance auditions are free dance classes. Like if I don't get the show, it's fine. But once you start going in more and more, you start wanting it more. And then of course, not everyone's going to get it. And you have to be able to get through that emotional hurdle of the rejection over and over again. But I'm one of the few people that I know that I actually love the audition process. I think it's really fun. It's one of my favorite parts of the whole industry. I just wish I could get paid to do it all the time.
I think that's a perfect way of putting it. And with that being said, now we kind of I obviously want to hear a little bit more about Book of Mormon, but I'm a little curious about Mean Girls because I live in Los Angeles. I was supposed to see, let's say pandemic didn't happen, I was supposed to see you guys at the Dolby. I don't know if it was this September, whenever it was supposed to be. Time is gone out of my mind now, but hopefully we get to see you guys soon. But did the Book of Mormon creative team and just you being in that show have anything to do with Mean Girls, or how did you get cast in that? Did you see an open call? Was it agency? All that stuff?
That's actually a great question. A good little industry learning for me. My agent couldn't get me an audition for Mean Girls. They were so dead set on what they were wanting, and they had their group of people that they were drawing from that they'd been auditioning since the first workshop, and I couldn't get seen. And I saw Mean Girls in DC. I saw opening night in DC actually, and immediately I was like, I have to get in the room for this role. This is so my personality. And eventually, I'd heard that they'd been auditioning for like 2 or 3 months and they weren't making any progress on the Damien side. They spent like 7 months casting the tour, all the roles. They weren't making progress on the Damien side. So I emailed one of Casey Nicola's associates because I had his email from working on Mormon, and I was like, hey, I can't get in the room. I'd really like to just try it. And 3 days later, I had an appointment. So, yeah.
People don't realize how important networking is, and just even if you send an email and you don't get a response, at least it's out there. Right. And I feel that there's just this drive that you have to get parts, because you never know. In the rare shot that you actually do get an appointment in the room, As a squirrel just walked by. If you do get in the room, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So walk me through your mental process. We obviously you get your shot and you're in the audition room. Where did it go from there? How many times were you seen after that, or was it just one of those like, hey, can you read some sides? I think we're gonna hand you this part.
Well, they'd already been through so many rounds of auditions that I kind of felt like I got there like halfway through. So they were already at only a couple people were coming in at a time doing a couple sides. But I honestly, I wasn't really expecting to get it, which I think is the healthiest mentality you can have in an audition, is to not expect to get the role. I was just thinking, thank goodness I actually get to try. I've always wanted to try this material. So I went in and I had as much fun as I could. I was just so happy to be there. And I think taking that wall down helped so much. And then of course, the first time I went in just for a couple people the first time. And then the second time I went in was Tina Fey, the whole team and everyone. And that was just my second time in the room. I was not expecting that. And in my head, I thought, well, this is going to be a good story one way or another. And I got her to laugh about 30 seconds into the material. And it's just, everything just relaxed. I was like, okay, at least I got Tina to laugh. I can at least say that. And then they brought me in 2 more times after that, I think. And that was it.
So now you're in the company. And when was this? It's been, time is weird now, but when was this that you got the part and started working on the tour?
I was cast in May of 2019 and we started rehearsals in August. So I got the script over the summer and I learned all the material and everything. So I was ready to go when we hit. And then we rehearsed in New York for 4 weeks and then tech for 2. And we were on the road for 7 months.
So now you're playing this iconic role. What is the weight of that? Obviously, because Mean Girls, when it went to New York and it started, in 2018, it got such a great reception because it's constantly being not rewritten, but modernized and bringing more relevant, weird, quirky issues to the show. What's the responsibility like playing Damien and carrying it?
It is truly a responsibility. It's something that I do kind of psych myself out a bit sometimes because it's like the movie was so iconic when it came out, and people in my generation, I was just about to go into high school when it came out, and everyone knew these characters. Everyone has a favorite character. It's got a huge fan base, and Tina wanted to adapt it for a more modern audience, for the new generation. She has 2 teenage girls now, and she says that she wrote it for them, basically, and that generation. So you have to take this idea that everyone has of these movie characters and their favorite quotes and their scenes and honor that, but also update it for a new generation so it doesn't feel dated in any way. And particularly with Damien, he's a very specific character in the movie, and we talked a lot in rehearsals about what actually defines him, like what is the essence of him. And we came up with, he's basically like the heart of the show. Like he's not the heart of the story, but he's the one that actually is a good friend and cares about people, and he brings warmth. So we focused all the time on me not being mean and being fun and being nice and just being kind of that safe space for everyone on stage. And that was kind of my way in. But you also have to acknowledge the line readings from the movie. They have to be done that way. Like, she doesn't even go here, has to be said a certain way or you're going to disappoint people. So I would once every 2 weeks on the road finish a show and think, I don't know if I did that right, but that's just my own mental game that I was playing. Of course, it was fine. Yeah.
I mean, you're always your hardest critic. That's what they all
Mhm.
say. But now this is kind of a weird thing. I've been falling in love with this idea over COVID. Maybe if that's just I miss being on a plane or on a bus or traveling more. But life on the road for tour is a lot different than Broadway because you're in one place 8 times a week and you're
Mhm.
not going anywhere. I mean, unless you have to leave and go see family. But when you're on tour, you're constantly going to different theaters. What's
Yeah.
the process like? Obviously, going from maybe big houses, and you're from Kansas City. I think the theater there is outdoors, right?
Yep. Hmm.
So what is that process like when you just have to adapt to each theater? And maybe I don't know if you guys live out of hotels, but I don't know if it's that kind of tour, but if that as well.
Yeah, I've done both. I've done the sit down in New York thing, and I've done the tour thing, and I've spent upwards of 7 years of my life now on the road. I've played like over 100 cities, and going from theater to theater is such a mental mind game because it's like I'm allergic to certain types of mold, for example, and some theaters I really have a hard time singing, and some theaters it's totally fine. You get local crew, and about half the crew travels with the show, and about half the crew is local and on most tours. And so you have new people backstage that you've never seen before, all of a sudden doing a quick change with you, and you have to just roll with the punches and make it work. Even something as simple as the backstage configurations being different. I physically saw someone run into a wall once when he ran off stage because he turned the wrong direction. It's so fun. And then of course there's living out of hotels or Airbnbs, wherever you happen to be for that city. And when you're in New York, you get to go home to like your space and your people, and you have friends outside of the theater. Like you really only have to be friends with your cast and crew for 3 hours a day, and then you're gone in New York. But when you're on tour, you live together, you travel together. They're the only people you see unless you happen to be in your hometown. So it's like going to like sleepaway theater camp for a whole year.
I mean, when you put it that way, it sounds, not too bad, but because, I feel like everyone loves a good camp vibe, but then you realize you have to do shows 8 times a week, which gets a little stressful. But with that being said, what are some things you do to take care of your body, to take care of your mind? Because that's just so crucial. And I think mental health is getting even more crucial. I think people are now acknowledging that more and more as we're, and at least in Los Angeles, heading into more lockdowns and stuff like that.
Right. Well, physically, it's what you'd think, exercise, eat healthy, all that kind of stuff, do your vocal warm-ups, your physical warm-ups, the things you would expect. But the mental side of the 8 show a week life, especially on tour, it's a real thing. And I've seen people completely collapse and seen people completely thrive on it. You have to really, I find I need like a routine outside of the show and even outside of my cast. Like I need like my 1 day a week that is just a me day doing my stuff. And I bring a puzzle mat and I do puzzles, or we have game nights and things, just like things to really just relax. And because when you're doing like a show in New York and you get the chance to go home, if you had a bad day at work, you get to go home and leave. But if you're on tour and you had a bad day at work, you go back to the hotel and you still feel like you're at work. You can't ever leave. So you have to find those ways to decompress and connect with people and share that experience with your other cast members and crew as well.
With finding ways to just get involved outside of the show is just so crucial. And whether it's go to the gym or go to your local Shake Shack or something incredibly bizarre like that. But what are some houses that you've just enjoyed playing at? I know that there's been a lot, but especially with Mean Girls.
Orlando, for some reason, every time I played Orlando, especially with Mean Girls, that those audiences are crazy. And I think it's because they all went to Disney for the day and now they're decompressing going to a show, which is always fun. Boston is the best theater city. They are so smart. You can hear the audience reacting to like real subtle things. It's great. Yeah. And then of course, we didn't get the chance to play Atlanta yet, but that theater is just so beautiful. I was really looking forward to the Dolby too.
They don't
often go there.
They don't with the Dolby. Because of the shutdown, they've only had one musical there ever. They never do musicals there. Escape to Margaritaville was the first one that they ever did. And it's
Nice.
now I know that it's a large house. It sits like almost 6,000. So it's, we got to sit in the fourth balcony. And I'm not used to sitting because we have the Pantages, which is just you got your one mezzanine. So sitting that high, it was like, what the heck? But yeah, the Dolby Theater, you're gonna have so much fun playing. Hopefully, you guys do get to. And I don't know what the plan is for social distance, but the Dolby Theater is the perfect theater to social distance because it's so big.
Right? Yeah.
And you said something about the Boston crowds. They don't call that the college town for no reason, I guess. But what the cast? Obviously, you want to sometimes get away from them just because you need time for yourself. But what has this cast just been like to you? They're just I see them on social media. They're superstars. I even saw on your Instagram page that you helped the current Damien, who's on Broadway, with a tap audition. So what's this family like? Obviously, you guys are going for the same stuff, but what is that community like? And especially we're seeing it now in this pandemic, how strong the theater community is. But what are we seeing?
You know, theater often gets a reputation, especially at a high level, for being like cutthroat and brutal. And it is at times, but we're all kind of in the same boat together. Like we're all going through the same stuff. And I say like, if you stay in New York for 2 or 3 years, you pretty much know everyone in your age demographic. You all know each other. You're all friends. And you've worked with half of them at that point. Our cast in particular, the Broadway company and the tour company, it's just so nice and so fun and so supportive of each other. And I think that's a trademark of Casey Nichola's casting. I've actually heard him say that when he gets to final callbacks, he casts the nicest people, not the necessarily most talented people, because he wants nice people that will work together. And it really shows in this. Like we all love each other. Poor MK, my Janice, like we literally cannot stop holding each other. We just love each other so much. We get the note all the time, like separate on stage, get off of each other.
No, this is something I don't really pay attention to as much. Obviously, because you guys have this capability of you guys get notes constantly because you guys have the ability to make those changes. Because I'm so used, at least, because college shows and high school shows, they don't last, a full year and a half, 2 years, whatever it may be. How does your note take, like when you get a note and you apply it, like do you go to your script and do script work constantly and update it? Like what does like the note process look like? I'm not really sure about this.
Right. A lot of people have their own different ways of doing it. Like I've been a swing before, and when you're a swing, it is all about the paperwork and making sure everything's written down. But for something like Damien, I have like a note file on my phone with like dates and things of like how things have progressed when they happen, but I only check it every now and then. I love getting notes and getting something because it gives me something to focus on next show, like something to work on. Because long running shows are completely malleable. It's not like your 5 performances and done. That's kind of just survive the 5 shows. But doing like I did over 2,000 shows of Mormon, and that show from when I started to when I left was still exactly the same show, but felt completely different because we'd worked on so many different areas. And the lovely thing about Mean Girls is we went back to the drawing board for the national tour. We changed probably 20% of the script from the Broadway company because it had lived for a year and a half and they'd lived with it and thought, okay, let's take it this direction now. And we really got to dig in and work on things. And I think when we get back on our feet, we're going to make even more changes when we get back, just because it's a living, breathing show. And it's healthy. I really like it.
I think that hearing you say the words "when we get back," that's pretty awesome. You get to say that, and
Mhm.
I feel like especially this is the year. I mean, I guess we're heading into 2021 with that as well, but just where you're thankful for every little thing. And yeah, the show is the same itself, but obviously there's those revisions, and you make it different for yourself. And I think that's what you have to do as actors, because when you're doing it so many times, you have to find ways to make it new, or else you're gonna go insane.
Yeah. I
Uh,
will say too, one thing that they strongly encourage with Mean Girls, which is unusual, is improvising stuff. Not dialogue, you have to stick to the dialogue, but improvising your own acting beats and changing it up on your scene partners. I think it comes from Tina's improv background, and that's how her writing style is. But they would encourage us to be like, okay, next time you do it totally different. That was great. Do it different next time. And we still, 7 months into the run, we're doing things totally different some nights. And just kind of one-upping each other in a really fun, active way.
just once again shows how strong your company is and how you guys are able to do those things and bounce off each other.
Yeah.
Now, this is a weird thing, and this obviously I asked the question about stage door because heading into the future, who knows if we're even going to be allowed to do it until 2023, you know what I mean? But with that being said, with Mean Girls specifically, what has been some good stage door memories? Obviously, I feel like that growing up, we go to the theaters and we're on the other side of the fence, and then all of a sudden, when you get cast in that big show, you're on the B side of the fence. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So what's the stage door life been like for you as a performer, and what's it meant to you?
Oh man, it honestly, it's one of the best parts of the entire job because what we're doing on stage is trying to connect to an audience and deliver a message, even if it's fun and covered in fluff. It's still there's a heart and a core there, and actually going to the stage door and talking to the people. It's like that's what we've been trying to do all night is just talk to you guys, and now we actually get to leave the stage door, and there they are. And I think one thing I was interested in was what the demographic would be, since the movie's 15, 16 years old now. Would the younger generation connect? And yeah, they
They
have.
better. I mean,
Yeah. The people dressing up, the people wearing all the shirts and everything. And it's really, it's so cool to get to be a part of something that has a legacy like that. I really like it.
I think that when people dress up, that also gives them a good medium when Disneyland says you can't dress up in costumes unless you're a cast member or you're like below the age of 10. Dressing up makes it fun because you see people with great costumes and cosplay, and it blows you away how talented the community is.
Mhm.
But before we wrap up, I just want to say once again, thank you for coming on. We still got a little bit more time left, but it's so awesome talking to performers, and especially like you. I love seeing stories where you got a call that you got a job in a FedEx store,
Yeah.
and that sticks with me because once a week, because my job, I drop stuff off at a UPS store, so I'm like, whoa, that's awesome. But with that being said, a little more like real, uh where do you see the future of theater going? I mean,
Ooh.
obviously you can't give me the right answer because no one knows the right answer, but where do you what in your opinion are you going to change for yourself, obviously with like the social injustices that have been happening, and with how we're constantly adapting and having conversations and listening to people. How are you going to make those changes, and if you are at all, when you return? And also COVID, how is that going to affect your cast and theater coming forward?
Man, that's an excellent question. Never been asked that one before. Uh, I was saying before, just like 5 years ago, theater was starting to go into like a new era of some kind. And I think theater in general kind of redefines itself every 15 or 20 years. It goes through like new eras and new stages. And we were just starting to make that shift. And then all of this craziness has happened over the last like 3 years that has really come to the forefront in so many areas, like you said. And I think theater historically tends to thrive in response to change in society, and it becomes a tool, not just like protest pieces, obviously, like something like Hair when that came out in 1969. There was a clear impetus for that. Not just like that. Theater has a responsibility to mirror society and hold a mirror up to society and force us to think. Even like I said, even the fluffiest shows with cute tap numbers can make you think. And people are really starting in this industry now that we have so much time sitting at home to realize how much power we will have again when we get back out there. And we have a responsibility to do that for society. So I'm excited. I don't have the answer of where it's going to go, but also the whole sitting at home and having online media and stuff be so effective. I think that's going to open a whole new doorway when things get back up on their feet. I think that's going to be a whole new avenue that's never been explored before, that I'm excited to see where that goes.
I think that you hit it right on the head. Theater thrives in response.
Mhm.
And like you said, this online media platform gives the people doors and stuff. So when
Mhm.
I see you in Mean Girls, you'll be getting your Campfire Series podcast T-shirt. That's for sure.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that with the change you're talking about, I think not just with the writing, but we've seen how we're seeing younger kids start coming into. I don't know if this is the change you're specifically talking about, but as an audience member, we're noticing. Uh, I'm noticing a change at least, and it's a great change. And we're switching away from the Les Mis and Phantom. We're getting more contemporary shows in like the early 2000s, but when it started come from away, when we're talking about
Right.
the story no one really knows about, with Yander, and all these movies that are being modernized and being more and more relevant. I think it's pretty awesome to see. And Harry Potter's a play. Like, there's just so many awesome things that are just out there. And uh congrats on being a part of it. you
No.
know it's gonna it, it's going to be really interesting to see where things go.
Yeah, I will say too, you said seeing more younger kids and stuff getting involved. I think this generation that's like 10 years old to 15 years old right now, somewhere in that range, or even slightly older, blows me away. It's an incredible generation, and I'm so excited to see the next generation of performers once they hit their 20s and they come to New York, or creative types like in the film industry or writing. I'm so excited to see where they go because it's such an inspiring generation, truly.
What's some last advice you can give to young performers, and especially as here's another change. A couple of years ago, we're going from to more and more self taped, and I can be pretty positive that those are going to be normalized going forward. So, what's some advice you can give to young performers that are looking to get out there?
I've given this advice for years, and it's so true. You can never plan where you're going to go next because you don't have control over that in this industry. What you have control over is working hard, preparing yourself, and getting yourself out there, and then just being open. I think anytime someone sets a goal, a very firm, concrete goal, you're setting yourself up to be disappointed if you don't reach it, or you don't reach it the way you wanted to. Like if you're like, I'm going to be on Broadway by 24, I'm like, you don't have control over that. It's a great dream, but if it doesn't happen, you're just going to be sad that it didn't happen. Like, I think the real goal for me, my life goal is just, I want to be in a theater doing good work. Doesn't even necessarily need to be on stage. And some of the stuff I've done hasn't been on stage. I've done pit orchestra work too. And that door just opened, and I went in, and I was happy with how it went. And I actually even said, if Mean Girls didn't happen, I might not be on stage again as an actor, because the music side was starting to take off. And I was okay with that, because I wasn't setting myself up to be like, well, at 35, I'll have played this role and then I'll do that. And so I think that's my biggest advice, is put in the work and let the journey take you where it's going to go.
Yeah, no, pit orchestra. That's a fun little
You know,
gig. It
that was
really
a
is.
left turn.
Well, it is. I mean, I saw on your once again, I saw on your social media that you were playing through the Great Comets intro. But
Yep.
it's one of the
I
most
made my, I made my Broadway debut in the pit, not on stage.
really.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. I,
Yeah.
I'm a saxophone player, so I love the pit. I think the orchestra pit doesn't get enough credit for
Oh,
the awesome work. So
crazy.
I never saw Great Comet, but you were terrific. I have to give credit to everybody in the pit.
Yeah, I played keys for Mormon for a year, which was really, really fun, and getting to know that side of things
That's so cool. That's wild.
was
Well,
awesome.
I I wish you best of luck in obviously that you're staying at home, so it's not a tasking job, but honestly it is. Take care of yourself and
Um,
uh everything, and enjoy the holidays. The Christmas
yeah,
lights
you
are
too.
up, and I'll let you know this episode will be dropping literally. We'll talk in the context, but today on Thursday, right now. But it'll be dropping tomorrow, and you've been so great, and I'll see
You're
you hopefully at a stage door if it's safe with masks in 2021 or whenever.
fingers crossed. That's the idea.
You have a terrific day.
You too. Thank you for this. This is
It was
great.
nice meeting you. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your hospitality and awesomeness.